high school girl named Hannah, was walking down a bridge in the middle of the night. She gets nervous and gets into a car with someone, and goes away. After this, we see a middle-aged man named Lee, who is a boxing coach. He goes to a restaurant with a trophy that was awarded to his student for being first runner-up in a match. It turns out that he was supposed to win the competition, but a corrupt official made his rival win for money. Lee is short-tempered and cannot tolerate when people treat his students unfairly. When the officer tries to argue with him, he throws his hand and knocks him out with a punch. However, the man turns out to be the vice president of the boxing association, who has the authority to ban Lee from coaching. Lee's sister is angry, as this is not the first time she has been kicked out of an organization for fighting. After some effort, he gets a job as a gym teacher in the rural area of the city. In the next scene, he is driving towards the city when the car's tire bursts. While waiting for the tow truck to arrive, he noticed a missing poster on a notice board. The girl seen in the picture is Hannah, a high school girl, the one we saw at the beginning of the film, on which someone has written a message joking about disappearing. Lee thinks this is disgusting and tries to erase the text, but this makes the situation worse. Upon reaching town, he sees 3 high school girls bullying someone. The victim is Maggie, best friend of the missing girl, who is angry at the crooks for drawing on her posters. When she confronts them, the crooks claim they didn't do it, but it is clear that they do not want Hannah to return. Lee tries to separate them, but the girls instead tell him to mind his own business. Next, he meets Dong, his former student and a police officer. He welcomes Lee to town and shows him around. Next, we see Maggie go to Hannah's house to meet her grandmother, discovering that Hannah's only family is her grandmother, who is worried about her missing. She and Maggie are the only ones actively trying to find Hannah, while the police are barely working on the case. Maggie goes to the terrace and remembers her time spent with Hannah. She suddenly remembered that Hannah used to work part-time in a club. After doing some research, she comes across the club's card and decides to go there and check it out. The next day, it was Lee's first day on the job. The principal introduces him to his colleagues and sets him up with an art teacher named Chul. Along with being the gym teacher, he has also been appointed as the student dean. The principal assigned him the task of collecting lunch fees from the students. During the lunch break, Lee asked them for money, but none of the girls obliged to do as instructed. On the way, he meets Maggie, but she also rejects him. After a while, Lee notices that she is jumping off the wall and not going to school. He follows her to the market, but is distracted by a claw machine. For the first time in his life, Lee wins a stuffed toy and is very happy. Maggie, on the other hand, sees an election campaign being run for a powerful politician named Mr. Kim. Most of the public is not aware that he is a corrupt and evil person. She ignores the campaign and goes to the club where Hannah worked. She asks people nearby if they have seen Hannah, but she doesn't get a definite answer. The club owner threatens to kick him out and are about to get handsy when Lee arrives and saves him. He also advises her to stay away from the case, as the police will be working on it. Later that night, he drops her home and returns back to his apartment. When Hannah is alone, a stranger follows her and tries to kidnap her. Lee, on the other hand, notices that she left her cell phone in the car and goes back to return it. He meets the kidnapper, who runs away after seeing that he is about to be captured. Lee brings Hannah to the hospital and files an official complaint with the police. However, when the police chief is told that Maggie is Hannah's friend, he tries to dismiss the case. It's almost as if he's trying to hide something about Hannah's disappearance. Later, Lee talks to his police friend Dong about Hannah's case and learns that the police have not yet officially registered it. They think she is a runaway who has gone to some city to escape responsibilities. Lee knows this can't be true, and he makes it his mission to find out what really happened to Hannah. He goes to her house and meets her grandmother. If she writes a formal letter to the police station and signs the consent form, the police will have no option but to file a missing report. The plan works, and Dong files a case for them. Lee also did some research into the matter around the school. He was told that Hannah was the worst student they had ever had. She was absent for half the year and was considered crazy. The teacher suggests that he stay away from her case for his own good. Maggie overhears them talking about her friend and becomes angry. She pulls Lee aside, saying that everyone is lying to her to hide the real reason for Hannah's disappearance. Lee doesn't know who is telling the truth. Before leaving, Hannah asks him what he would have done if Hannah was his daughter. The question clarifies his thinking, causing him to register that even though Hannah is a fugitive, she needs to be found. Next, Lee finds a group of girls smoking in the bathroom. He looks around for a packet of cigarettes, but instead, he finds a hidden camera in a stall. He immediately goes to the principal to apprise him of the situation. The principal does not give him a chance to talk and wants him to stay away from Hannah's case. The comment reveals that Lee doesn't want to tell them about the camera, so he brings it back and looks at its contents himself. It turns out that the camera was set up by art teacher Chul, which is posted right near his desk. Lee goes to call him out for being a pervert, but discovers that he has already left for home. Taking a chance, he looks at Chul's laptop and is surprised to see text messages between him and Hannah. The night she went missing, He had texted her to pick her up from the bridge. It is clear that he knows something about the matter. Lee immediately called his police friend, but he did not answer the phone. He then calls Maggie and asks her where she is. She leaves in a car with Chul, who offers to drive her home. Lee quietly tells him everything about Chul, and tells him to be careful. She cleverly tells Chul where they are going, and texts Lee the location, so that he can find it easily. She then notices that Chul's key ring looks similar to the one that Hina has. She asks him about him, but is punched and knocked unconscious. When she opened her eyes, she was bound and gagged on her bedroom floor. She sees that Chul has Henna's phone in the cupboard. Before she can do any harm to him, Lee arrives and forces his way into the house. Chul tries to stop him, but fails against the former national boxing champion. He is punched to the floor and tied up, pleading with Lee not to report him, as his career would be over. But Lee doesn't care. He asks the pervert about Henna, but he claims to know nothing about her disappearance. According to him, Henna had called him to pick him up from the club that night. He was taking her home when he got a call from someone else, and was asked to drop him at the gas pump. She said someone else was coming to pick her up, so Chul went home without thinking too much about it. But a few minutes later, he felt uncomfortable leaving a girl alone at night. But when he returned to pick her up, she was already missing. He found his phone on the road and kept it, claiming not to know anything else. Soon, Chul is jailed for his misbehavior, but the police chief still refuses to believe that Henna was kidnapped. Even when Lee insists that he should work harder on the case, he dismisses the conversation. After Lee leaves, we see the chief calling someone and telling them to be careful. This proves that someone else is also involved in the kidnapping, and the chief is helping them. At school, the principal calls Lee into his office and fires him for taking too much interest in Hannah's case. It's clear to Lee that everyone in town is trying to hide what happened to him. So before he can think about the next move, his police friend Dawn calls him to a location immediately. Upon arriving, Lee sees Hannah's body being taken away in an ambulance. Maggie begins to cry over the death of her best friend. Lee realizes that the killers may be targeting Maggie as well, as she was their best friend. At the moment, they go to the hospital to visit Hannah's grandmother, who is ill. His condition worsens when he receives the news of his granddaughter's death. On the other hand, Dong overhears his superiors talking, and he realizes that the chief is taking money from someone to cover up the matter. He decides to do his own investigation, and steals Hannah's phone, which was found earlier. After repairing it and reading the texts, he sees that Hannah talked to a woman from the club named Isol. He informs Lee about the woman, but right after the call, someone knocks him out from behind. After this, Lee goes to the bar and meets the woman. When pressed, she reveals that Hannah used to be a part-time singer in the club. The night she disappeared, the politician Mr. Kim, the bar's chairman, and the police inspector had gathered at the club. While she was performing, she got a call from the hospital that her grandmother was ill. She asked permission from the chairman, but he started misbehaving with her. She eventually ran away, while being chased by the bar owner. Isol doesn't know what happened to him after that. The bar owner and his men attack Lee, but he manages to fight them all off. When only the owner was left, he asked the man why he killed Hannah. The terrified man admitted that he had stalked Hannah that night, but that he was not responsible for her death. In fact, he had found her strangled to death in a public bathroom. The one who killed him was none other than Chul. He is Mr. Kim's son, and is not afraid of anyone because of his father's influence. He loved Hannah, and when she refused to obey him, he killed her. After finding this out, an angry Lee calls Dawn and learns that Chul has already been released from the police station, meaning Maggie's life is also in danger. When she doesn't answer his phone, he immediately goes to Chul's house. On the other hand, Chul finds Maggie and kidnaps her at another location. But he stops when her father comes to the house. Not wanting Mr. Kim to know that he has kidnapped Maggie, he locks her inside a closet before taking her away. Mr. Kim is angry because of all the problems his son has caused. He ordered Chul to go to America and never return. In return, Chul accuses him of murdering Hannah. It was then revealed that Kim had been called to the public bathroom to handle the matter. But when she discovered that Hannah was still alive, she killed her to save her reputation. To complete what his son had started after he was gone, Maggie attacks Chul and manages to escape outside, but it doesn't take long for him to catch up. He is seconds away from killing him when Lee comes in and attacks him. After beating her to a pulp, he brings Maggie to the hospital, as she is seriously injured. On the other hand, Mr. Kim wins the election and is elected as the governor of the city. He is now stronger than ever. Lee watches the news on TV, and filled with anger, he drives his car onto the highway and hits the car in which Mr. Kim is sitting. After beating the driver, he approaches the politician, who is still trembling with fear. He tries to scare Lee, asking him if he knows who he is, but Lee doesn't care about his situation. The next morning, the truth about Kim and the police inspector make national news. They are arrested for Hina's murder. In the final scene, Lee visits Maggie in the hospital and leaves the stuffed toy he won in the claw machine for her. He then moves to another city in hopes of starting a new life. And this movie ends here. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.